The Atlanta Braves wasted a great performance from Max Fried on Monday night as the offense continues to struggle, especially in the power department. We'll talk about that a lot on today's episode of Locked On Braves, so let's get into it.
You are Locked On Braves, your daily Atlanta Braves podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, and welcome back to Locked On Braves, part of Locked On Sports Atlanta, where we cover your favorite Atlanta sports teams each and every day. I am your host, Jake Mastriani. You can follow me on social media at ShortstopBall. Make sure you check out the podcast there at LockedOn_Braves. Send in any questions, comments, or feedback that you have for the podcast. Always enjoy hearing from you and letting me know how I can make this podcast even better and more enjoyable for you. Also, make sure if you're new, you subscribe on YouTube. Of over 10,000 subscribers there. Hit that thumbs up button if you haven't already. Appreciate your support there. And if you're listening on the audio version, you can leave me a 5-star review on Apple, Spotify, all the great platforms where you can listen to Locked On Braves. Thank you so much to all my everydayers out there. Had some great comments on yesterday's video. Let me know how much you love the show. I truly enjoy those and appreciate reading all those comments. Today's episode will recap Monday's tough loss, getting walked off in Seattle. We'll talk about Max Fried's performance, the struggles for the offense. I really want to discuss that a lot, and not just the Braves, but just the power being down around all of baseball right now. We'll dive deep into the specifics there. Before we do that, though, today's episode is brought to you by Monopoly Go. I admit it, I have a competitive side, and it came out last night when the Braves lost that game late. And it's also why I'm a big fan of Monopoly Go, the mobile hit twist on the classic Monopoly game. So join your friends and download Monopoly Go now free on the App Store or Google Play. So let's jump into Monday's game. A 2-1 loss to the Seattle Mariners, who have been playing really good baseball lately. You knew this was going to be a tough challenge for the Braves, especially with their offensive struggles going into it, facing a Mariners team that has a really good pitching staff. Bryce Miller, he's having a breakout season in his second year. That fastball is really good. He didn't even really need his split finger pitch, which has been something that he's introduced this year that's been great for him. He really didn't even need it. Mainly worked on that fastball, and then later he started to throw that sweeper a little bit and caught some hitters off guard, particularly Austin Riley and Matt Olson in clutch situations. But this is going to be a tough matchup. You knew that going on the West Coast, facing a Mariners team that's playing good baseball, but you had a chance to win it late. A 1-0 lead in the ninth inning. 2 batters into the ninth inning, that lead was gone with the walk-off home run from Mitch Garver. Minter blew the save. Raisel Iglesias wasn't available. And this is what, we've talked about a lot lately. I know me and Grant have talked about it a lot on the postcast with starters being able to go deep into games. It's really helped keep the bullpen fresh, and it's helped allow everyone to be available in situations like this. But because of the closeness of the last 2 games and really that series against Cleveland, where you had to use a lot of your top relievers in back-to-back games, then it brings up a situation like this where your closer is not available. And you have to go to A.J. Minter, who, look, I get it. He's had some struggles in the past trying to close out games. He just, in the ninth inning, for whatever reason, just hasn't been great for A.J. Minter. But he has been the Braves' most dominant reliever this season. I understand why Brian Snitker would want to give him that opportunity there in the ninth inning. But, history just says Minter in the ninth inning has typically not been a good decision. But again, this is because of the closeness of the last 2 games in Cleveland, where the Braves weren't able to put them away there or score more runs to make it a little bit easier of an outcome so that you don't have to use all your best relievers. But you got 3 close games like this that are basically decided by 1 run, or they are decided by 1 run, and you're having to use a lot of your good bullpen arms. And it is still April. You're not going to use Raisel Iglesias for a 3rd straight game. You're just not going to do that. And instead, it was A.J. Minter, and he made a mistake. Can't throw that cutter out of the middle of the zone. I talked about that a lot last year when he was struggling at the beginning of 2023. That cutter, or to me, it's more of a slider. It's just a pitch that when it's left out over the zone, it's getting absolutely crushed. It has to be a put-away pitch off the plate. And he left it out, and Mitch Garver absolutely destroyed it, and the Braves got walked off on Monday night. Just a really, really tough loss, but again, it is against a good Mariners team who's playing really great baseball at the moment. Somebody for the Braves playing great baseball at the moment is Max Fried. He backed up his complete game shutout performance by throwing 6 no-hit innings against the Seattle Mariners on Monday night. He did walk 2 batters, but no runs and 7 strikeouts. He only gave up 2 hard hit balls on the entire evening. Only 2 hard hit balls the entire game from the Seattle Mariners. And those 2 hard hit balls had launch angles of -16 and -15. So those are easy ground outs. Nothing put in play had an expecting batting average over 360. That's how you have no-hit stuff when even the expected batting averages on some of these balls aren't even that high. 75-mile-per-hour average exit velocity against everything put in play against Max Fried was weakly hit. 15 whiffs. Usually Max Fried's not somebody that gets a lot of whiffs, but this Mariners team does that a lot. They strike out a lot. 12 called strikes, 9 ground outs, only 2 balls put in the air. And that's something we know Max Fried does extremely well. And in this start, it was 48% fastball. He was really leaning heavily on that fastball. The location kind of went with it a little bit at times, but for the most part, he was just riding that fastball, locating it into righties, what we saw a lot in his last start. He did get 8 called strikes on the curveball. Was kind of working backwards a little bit. He was throwing that curveball early in counts, getting it over for strikes, and then putting guys away with that fastball. Only knock that I have on Max Fried in this start is that it was a lot of deep counts, drove up his pitch count to 100. That's why he wasn't able to go beyond the 6th inning there. And you can still see signs of struggles with command here or there. It is much better than the first 4 starts. Don't get me wrong. But you saw it at times in this start where he wasn't able to put hitters away. They fouled off some close pitches, and it's why he wasn't able to go as deep in the game, and he walked a couple batters as well. But overall, I mean, these past 2 starts for Max Fried, that is the guy that we've been looking for. It's the guy we've been hoping to get at the top of the rotation. It was a no-hit bid for the Atlanta Braves. Pierce Johnson got through the 7th cleanly. Joe Jimenez came out for the 8th, gave up a hit, a ball maybe Ozzie Albies should have gotten to. This is where, people ask me, I've had somebody ask me, you just keep saying that Ozzie Albies is bad defensively, but you're not giving any proof. Maybe there's your proof a little bit. I think that's a ball that a second baseman probably should get to, at least catch and come up and try to make a good throw on, depending on the runner. It's not an easy play, but I think it's a play that Ozzie Albies needs to make. And he had another one later in the inning. That one's a little bit more difficult, but he at least was able to get his glove on that one and save the runner from scoring. That was a huge play there. But the no-hit bid does get broken up as the ball kind of just squeaks through the infield. Still, a fantastic job by Joe Jimenez. You have to give him a lot of credit because he had the bases loaded there. 1 out, had J-Rod coming up to the plate and got the next 2 batters out without giving up anything. Big strikeout to get out of that against Mitch Haniger. So a great job there by Joe Jimenez. Not a lot to talk about offensively, and I'm going to get into the offense more in the second segment. But I will say it is clear, and this is not breaking news to anyone, when Ronnie gets on base, good things happen. And again, that is not any breaking news, anything you need to write up on a bulletin board, but we know that to be the case. And it's why it's so frustrating that he's going through this slump that he is right now, because when he gets on, he makes things happen. And that's what happened in this game. He broke up the no-hitter, a 98.1 mile per hour single up the middle. It was on a 95 mile per hour fastball, which is good because he's struggling against fastballs. He struggled against them in this game, and Bryce Miller has a great one. I understand that. But this is a year-long issue with Ronald Acuna Jr. struggling against fastballs. Now, the pitch that he hit was down and away. It was supposed to be up and in, where pitchers are just absolutely destroying Ronald. And you saw that in the first 2 at-bats, especially against Bryce Miller. But this one missed in location, down and away where Ronald could get to it, and he drove it up the middle for a hit. He stole second, he stole third, and then he scored on Ozzie's double. And Ozzie, by the way, has been fantastic. I talk about his deficiencies in the field, but he has been absolutely great at the plate, and it's why he's in there every single day. But going back to Acuna, it's why, he's the MVP and why he is so special, because when he is on and he's getting on base, He is scoring runs, and he is helping the rest of the offense kind of settle in and do their thing. But you got to have Ronald on more, and you got to have him doing those things on the base pass like we saw. But the big issue and one of the reasons why the Braves lost this game, obviously, what AJ Minter did wasn't great, but the offense not able to add on after you got that run. Ronald, your leadoff hitter, gets on to begin an inning, steals 2 bases, scores on a double from Ozzie, and then Riley strikes out looking at a sweeper. Olsen strikes out looking at a sweeper. Ozuna pops up, not getting that second run at the time even. And with the way the game was going, you felt like you got that second run. You felt pretty good about your chances. In the end, you needed that second run just to continue the game with what would happen later and unfold. But that was a big loss in this game, with the offense just not able to add on after scoring that run and that Ozzie double. That really proved to be, the reason why the Braves lost this game. And you can point to AJ Minter and what he did, but this offense not being able to add on in that situation and at least get one more run home with the top of your order coming up, that was a huge failure in this game for the Braves. And the offense as a whole has really been cold here lately. It is a week-long cold spell for this offense, but it's not something we're used to seeing. I want to talk more about that and just the power outage league-wide right now, not just for the Braves, but are we seeing a power outage league-wide? We'll get that all here next. It's playoff time in the NBA and NHL, and baseball is in full swing, as you know, and FanDuel is your place to bet on every game. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets guaranteed. That's $150 win or lose. Bet on everything from slap shots to home runs to slam dunks, all on an app that is safe, secure, and easy to use. So visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and make your first bet an automatic win. They got all kinds of Major League Baseball stuff in there. Like I said, NBA playoffs happening as well, NHL, so many things that you can get in on the action on at FanDuel. But also make sure you visit FanDuel.com/playsafe for tools and resources to help you stay in control of the way that you play. FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. You got ESPN, Fox Sports on your TV all day. You're constantly having to turn it down or even mute the channel because they're just getting so loud for no reason at all other than to hear themselves talk. You want your sports programming all day long but don't want to deal with all of that? Then make the switch to Locked On Sports today, a free 24/7 sports streaming channel programmed for you every day to bring you the biggest stories without all that screaming. Locked On Sports Today brings you can't-miss analysis, opinions, and news, streaming 24/7 on YouTube or the free Amazon Fire TV channels app, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. All right, we do have a lot coming up for you this week. We have an off day on Thursday, so I want to do another live mailbag podcast on Thursday night, so get ready for that. We'll also take a trip around the league this week, and I'm hoping to have an interview with somebody from the Dodgers side of things as we get set for that series this upcoming weekend. But now I want to turn my attention to the offense. And the Braves offense in particular is going through a bit of a cold spell at the moment. They've lost the lead for team OPS to the Dodgers. They've lost the lead in average as well to the Dodgers. The Dodgers are up on 3 points right now. Their Dodgers have an 800 OPS, the Braves 789. So while I'm talking about this and the struggles of the offense, keep in mind, this is still a top 3, top 5 offense in all of baseball at the moment. But they are going through a bit of a cold spell. You look at the home run totals that are certainly down for the Braves at the moment. They are 16th in all of baseball in home runs with 29 in 27 games. And that is the fewest played games right now. Everybody ahead of them has played more games than that, but still, the Braves are 16th in home runs, the best home run hitting team in baseball, the team that tied the season record for most home runs in a season last year is currently 16th in home runs. Orioles lead all of baseball with 45 home runs in 28 games. Looking at the Braves offense specifically, this is not counting Monday's game. So we're just looking at the last 6 games, but obviously Monday's games didn't help any of these numbers. And I want to emphasize, we are talking about a week-long stretch here, but it hasn't been great. And still over the span, it's a top 10 offense. Since April 22nd, the Braves are 7th in average at 256. They're 13th in WRC plus at 99. They're 10th in WOBA at 317. They have 3 home runs in their last 7 games. That's it. 3 home runs for the Braves in their last 7 games. And we know that's what this Braves offense is built to do. Yes, they can hit, they can score runs in different ways, but when they are clicking, and what makes them so special is the home run ball, and that just hasn't been here for the last week. So why is that? What is going on with this Braves offense? They have faced some good pitching. They faced Ryan Weathers with the Marlins, who is a good young starter and has had some ups and downs this year, but when he's on, he can be really good. Certainly that Guardians rotation is really strong. It always is. Tanner Bybee, another good young pitcher that when he's on, he can shut down any lineup. And then what we saw from Bryce Miller, again, we talked about him. I think he's getting ready to have a breakout season. He has been really, really good. So they have faced some really good pitching here lately. Even with that, this offense can hit really good pitching, and they should hit really good pitching. They're just not swinging the bat really well right now. We've talked a lot about the struggles of Acuna, Riley, and Olsen. You go back to the last 2 Tuesday podcasts I've done, I've really focused on those 3, and those issues remain the same. For Acuna, it is the fastball. It is the four-seam fastball, especially up and in, that is really bothering him at the moment. For Riley, he seems to be caught in between. He's also struggling with the four-seam fastball, and then he's struggling those sliders down and away off the plate once again, as he did early in his career. So he seems to be kind of stuck in between. For Olsen, it's really just the strikeouts. When he is making contact, he is hitting the ball extremely hard. He's just striking out way too much. So again, I don't want to rehash all of that, but those are the issues I'm seeing specifically with those 3 hitters at the moment. And when your 3 best hitters are all struggling at the same time, like Acuna, Olsen, and Riley are for the Braves, you're going to see some offensive struggles like we've seen over the past week. And those struggles become magnified when Travis d'Arnaud's not hitting a home run or hitting 3 home runs a game, when Orlando Arcia isn't back to his all-star self and isn't on fire like he was to begin the season. Well, Marcell Ozuna, Michael Harris, they've still been hitting well over that stretch. They are the only 2 hitters over this past week. And I know it feels kind of silly to be talking about a 1-week sample size, but it is what it is. We're talking about this game in the moment. I do a podcast 5 days a week. We are going to analyze things in the moment. But over the past week, only Marcell Ozuna and only Michael Harris have a batting average over 200 during the 7-game streak. That's going to be rough on any team. And that's not what we're used to seeing from this Braves offense. And then lastly, balls just aren't flying out like we're used to seeing. There have been plenty of contact from these Braves hitters, Riley and Olsen and Acuna included, that are typically home runs that just aren't for whatever reason right now. And I say it at the beginning of it every year, and I know it's going to happen. I know the weather's going to warm up. I know the baseballs are going to start flying out, but I'm getting impatient in waiting. And I'm tired of seeing these balls that are typically home runs that should be no doubters that are dying at the track. And again, we see it at the beginning of every season. I'm getting tired of waiting on these balls to leave the stadium. Now, with that, those are the Braves' offensive struggles, and it's 1 week. Again, they're going to turn things around. I'm not worried about that. But I want to take a look league-wide and see if offense is down league-wide. Maybe they've done something to the baseballs. Maybe something has changed, and offense just is down a little bit this year. So I'm comparing the first 28 games from last year, the first 28 games of this year. Last year, there were 7 teams that had a WOBA of 330 or better through 28 games. This year, there are also 7 teams with a WOBA of 330 or better. Last year, 5 teams had a WRC plus of 110 or higher. This year, there are 6. Last year, there were 6 teams hitting 260 or better. This year, there are 4. Last year, there were 5 teams slugging 450 or better. This is where things change. Everything up to this point has pretty much been the same, but you get to the power numbers and you're going to see a big change. Last year, 5 teams slugging 450 or better through the first 28 games. This year, there are 2. Last year, there were 4 teams with over 40 home runs, including the Braves at 41. This year, there is only one team through the first 28 games with more than 40 home runs, and that is the Baltimore Orioles. Last year, 4 teams had 150 or more runs. This year, it's 3. So again, not a huge change there. Runs, batting average seem to be the same. Nothing, offensive production doesn't really seem to be all that different from this year to last year. But there is a pretty noticeable difference in power production, and that it is down across the board. And when you consider that fact, because just looking at the numbers, that is fact. Power production is down across the board this year. And when you understand this Braves lineup is built on power, and again, yes, it can do other things, but it is certainly a lineup that is built on smashing the baseball, hitting home runs, and power is down across the board. That's worrisome for me as a Braves fan. And again, we are comparing the first 28 games of this year to the first 28 games of last year. Maybe this year it's been unusually cold. I didn't go back and look at weather patterns from last year to this year and match that up, but I can't imagine it's really all that different. So is the league messing with baseballs again? We're never going to know. They're never going to tell us these things. But when you're looking at the numbers and you're telling me that 5 teams slugged 450 or better through the first 28 games last year, and this year there's only 2, you're telling me that 4 teams had over 40 home runs at the first 28 games of last year, and this year there is 1. That to me is a definitive sign, indication, fact that power production is down, not just with the Braves, but across the league. Why that is, again, I don't know, but it is down. Again, offensive production is there. Teams are still scoring runs. They're still getting their hits, but the home runs just aren't there like we saw at the beginning of last season. We'll likely see power tick up as the season goes along, just like it naturally does and always does. But something's different. Maybe it's just off a little bit. Maybe it's just a weird year, and the power is just not there for a lot of teams to begin this season. But it is noticeably down from last year and from what we are used to seeing. And that doesn't change the fact that the Braves at bats right now are just not good. I mean, you can see a lot of these at bats from Acuna and Riley Olsen specifically. I know we're harping a lot on them, but they're just not good at bats at the moment. But it is frustrating that when they have a good at bat and they're putting a good swing on the ball, it's not doing what we're used to the baseball doing, and we're not seeing it leave the yard like we're accustomed to seeing happen. So I say all that to say the Braves offense will be fine, but they are definitely going through a really rough patch right now, and it's hard to see it getting much better as they continue this West Coast trip against Mariners pitching staff and then going up against the Dodgers pitching staff. They got to turn some things around quickly. It all starts at the top with those 3 that we have mentioned. They have got to get it going, and they have got to get on base and start. Look, they're not going to hit home runs, go back to hitting doubles like they were doing earlier in the year, where it looked like they were going to break the record for doubles in a season. Whatever the case may be, we need to see better, more consistent at-bats from the top of the lineup for the Atlanta Braves to get this offense going. Hopefully that starts on Tuesday night, where Reynaldo López takes the mound going up against another really good pitcher that's going to test this Braves offense, and Luis Castillo. We'll preview that matchup here next. It's never too late to show your mom your love this Mother's Day with DoorDash. Surprise mom with flowers, gadgets, and self-care essentials all in one place, delivered right to her door. Does your mom have a sweet tooth? Is she a tech enthusiast? I know mom isn't, but maybe yours is. Maybe she's a beauty connoisseur, or maybe she's an outdoorsy type. No matter what your mom is into, you can make her smile with either a fruit or flower bouquet, makeup, tech gear, workout wear, whatever your mom is into, you can get her taken care of with DoorDash. Pair flowers with a gift card so she can celebrate any way she wants. Is she a bookworm? Try a bookstore gift card. I know that's what I'll be getting my mom for Mother's Day. Does she love a good latte? Get a gift card to her favorite coffee shop. You can't go wrong, and there's so many options to choose from on DoorDash. Get all your Mother's Day gifts all in one place. Get 50% off your next order, up to $15 when you spend $15 or more on your next flour, convenience, grocery, or retail order now with the code LOCKEDONMLB. That's LOCKEDONMLB to get 50% off your next order, up to $15 when you spend $15 or more. Order using DoorDash today. Terms apply. All right, it will be Reynaldo López versus Luis Castillo on Tuesday night. For Reynaldo López, I say it every time, just keep it going. Can he keep it up? And this is a Mariners team that strikes out a lot. They chase a lot, and it's another opportunity, I think, for López to use that fastball slider combination, get them chasing that slider off the plate. Again, the key for me, as it has been all year, that fastball command and being able to work that slider off of it. If that can continue, he can continue this run that he is on. He has a 3.3% barrel rate this year and 23.3% sweet spot against, which means batters just are not squaring him up, which is crazy to think because he is primarily throwing 2 pitches. We'll see if he starts to introduce that curveball just a little bit more in this one, but why change it if it's not broken? And so far for Reynaldo López, he has been on fire to begin the season, and hopefully that continues on Tuesday night. As for Luis Castillo, you know all about him. He's been one of the best pitchers in baseball for a while, a perennial Cy Young contender. It's another really good four-seam fastball that averages in the mid-90s, something the Braves have been struggling with. Batters are hitting .259 against it this year, but they have a .199 expected batting average. So he's had a little bit of bad luck on that four-seamer, but it still is a really good pitch and something that's going to give Braves hitters a lot of trouble until they can adjust and start getting on these four-seamers. And he has a slider with a whiff rate near 43.4%. So we are going to see a lot of fastball slider combinations in this game on Tuesday night. Probably going to see a lot of swings and misses with Braves hitters. Again, they've got to adjust. And for Luis Castillo, just a 4.8% walk rate this year. He has not been walking a lot of batters. He's had 3 straight quality starts after giving up 4 earned in each of his first 3 outings this year. So he got off to a bit of a rough start, but he seems to be back on track. Again, he's one of the best pitchers in baseball. It's going to be another great pitcher's duel, and that's what this series is going to feature. This Braves offense has to find a way to make some things happen, to manufacture some runs. If the home runs aren't going to be there, they're going to have to find other ways to score against Luis Castillo and this great pitching staff. But that will be Tuesday night. Reynaldo López versus Luis Castillo as the Braves try to even up this series with the Seattle Mariners. They got to win game on Tuesday night to do that. I want to let you know, though, that Locked On has launched the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube, and it's now available on Amazon Fire TV and the free Fire TV channels app. Locked On Sports Today is here for you 24/7, covering the top sports stories of the day with the local experts of Locked On. Again, coming up on the podcast later in the week, we will have a live mailbag episode on Thursday again with another off day. Also hoping to get somebody from the Dodgers side of things to come on the podcast to preview that big series, and we'll take you around the league on Wednesday as well, and we recap the rest of this Mariners series. But that will do it with this episode of Locked On Braves. Make sure you subscribe on YouTube. If you're new, hit that thumbs up button. Make sure that you follow us on social media at shortstopball, at LockedOn_Braves. Make sure that you rate, review, and subscribe to the Locked On Braves podcast wherever you get your podcast, and we will talk to you next time.